was in a dream, and I'm remembering in my dream that I was a person in Texas with allergies and teenagers. I'm remembering that I wake up in a room that's a crazy room with younger children, no glasses and no allergies. And I'm in this room and I'm in a party. It's a party. It's a party. And there's a lot of people and they're all talking and some people are saying hi. And I'm like, and they're like, come on, join the party. I'm like, I don't want to join the party. I want to wake up. I want to know what's going on. And then I start thinking, am I going to wake up in this world? Or am I going to wake up in this world? And I wanted to wake up in this world, of course. This one was just, and I kind of hang out at the party until I wake up and I'm back in Texas. But guess what happens, Daniel? I don't have allergies anymore.
I love it.
I know. That's just even saying it.
Yep.
Now, I wish part would have gone.
Yep.
Because it didn't. But my allergies just went,
Yep.
Fine. I for a time in some unexplained way, this other version of myself in another completely different reality that seemed, every way I knew how to test it seemed physical.
Yep.
And somehow I was able to bring the version or the component or the detail, I don't know, or maybe just experiencing it back to my life where I didn't have to have that allergy anymore.
Yep.
A story to heal, right? And how did it heal? By reading somebody else's story that prompted me to consider their story that my imagination gave to me in a dream story or an altered experience story, whatever you want to call it. And I woke up with a benefit.
That's amazing. That is such a beautiful story.
The imagination is the language of the higher self. And you could poke holes in that in a lot of different ways, but the definition helps in exploration of consciousness in a lot of ways. And it also explains this, and I think in some ways this is even more important to understanding where we are as a culture, and that's to look at how, especially here in the Western world, mostly our imagination is upon, and it is captured in a box. And I mean, just think about it. From the time you were a kid, you've been told to get your head out of the clouds, to stop making that up, stop pretending. Back to me from clients, other practitioners, just other people who have interesting experiences, is when they feel something happen and it doesn't quite make any sense and it's not in the plans or whatever, and they do it anyway. I know this road is 3 times as long to get to the place where we're going. And it doesn't make any logical sense for me to take that route. But I have this impulse to go that way. Man, go that way. You might run into something that you need to see or will expand your life over there. These little impulses, they're part of, I think, the same part of our culture that demonizes the imagination, doesn't want us to follow that sort of spontaneous, intuitive voice that we all have, but we have silenced it. And we have diminished it, dimmed it, and made fun of it, and have done all of that for so long. It's a very small, tiny thing within many of us. My father-in-law and his parents stopped on the side of the road in Southern Illinois in the 1940s and saw a spaceship in the field. My father-in-law ended up going into the Air Force and then into, the industrial military complex that supports those who leave that area by building aircraft and everything. And my husband and some other families brought that up more than once. And he's just, but he will acknowledge that something strange happened, that he can't explain whatever that was. And now we're going to stop talking about it. Please keep whatever that was in a box over there. I'm not going to think about it. We're not going to talk about it. And in this version of him that we know in this life, Never, as far as I know, contemplated, expanded, allowed that experience, and neither did his parents, by the way, to be anything more than, what was that? What's for dinner? I mean, they wouldn't even allow their imagination to consider any of it with conversation. It was all about hurry up and shut it down and let's get back to what's really important, the chicken dinner that's on the table or whatever. Yeah. And so there's that. And I'm aged. First he had one, the first child thought it was a one-off. Then the second child came along and started up again with a different memory. One had a memory of being living on another planet. And the second one had, I believe it was this order, memories of coming from the inner earth. Yeah. Right? So some of these new children who are remembering these things, we've boxed it off, right? And this expansion of consciousness, it's expanding through the family line. And his entire session, Daniel, was really not so much. He did have a curiosity about his children and the fact that he was the father of these kids who were bringing this up. His biggest problem was the disconnect he was having with his wife. Because his wife was so traditional, so conventional. Her entire focus about this crazy stuff that was coming out of their kid's mouth was, how do we make it stop?
Wow. Okay.
How do we get them to shut up? How them from getting in this school and having this thing and those people over there will think we're whatever. And his biggest reason for having the session was his relationship with his wife, because he at least was curious about it and wanted to talk about it. And her whole thing is, oh my God, no. The first one is finally settling down, talking about it. And the second one is now talking about something similar. What are we going to do to make them stop? And his biggest problem was the relationship with the wife. And it's extraordinary to have someone like that as a client, and he keeps bringing up that the wife, has this idea of being shunned from the parts of society that are important for her to participate in. And what I was able to, and I think in his session and some of that, he might very well have a neighbor whose child is doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
And it's because we're all not talking, and we all are following some sort of prescribed rules. Here's another one. Man comes from I think it was a tax or an accounting office or something like that. He comes to have a session with me, and he's so grateful, just even for the time that we talk about stuff that you and I are talking about, like for the past hour or so, right? He's so grateful about it. He's like, I don't have anyone in my life I can talk to about this. And do you know what was fascinating about it was like, no one you work with, no one in your family, no, none of them. Somebody from his office comes to me a few months later.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Now, because of reality, I can't tell the second guy, hey, there's someone in your office who came to see me, had this kind of session. But I can and did say, you'd be surprised who might be sitting right next to you, who's having some of these similar things. And then that is the shared thing again, right? If you share the stories, something about sharing the stories allows our beingness to accept, and then maybe even I just don't understand why I'm suddenly crying for no reason. And I answered her points and questions, but I answered that one in particular by saying, would it help you to know that I find myself crying for no reason? No discernible reason, really, or the smallest thing setting me off, and suddenly I'm crying. And that's not, I'm 60. I've always been glass half full kind of gal. I've always been extremely optimistic, even through stuff. But I think we as humans, we're like a flock of birds in a way. We're being affected as a species. And I think some of that is bubbling up through even the most optimistic of us in society. I think there's a fatigue and a sadness about some of what we've been through, some of our innocence that we've lost, some of what we've seen, the atrocities that we've. Come find us at quantumhealers.com for all of that, and find your own quantum healer, either online or in person. The directory is very easy to use. Daniel, this has been so much fun. I really, really enjoy your energy. I loved your questions. And thanks for putting up with me, because I know I did most of the talking.
Oh, it's perfect. I'm so grateful for our conversation. It's been a blast. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. It's super important. I would encourage anyone to check out. I've done the training. It's wonderful. I'm a member of the forum. It's wonderful. So I give my wholehearted recommendation and endorsement for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.